The Spider-Man franchise is currently aiming to have Tom Holland and friends locked into filming for as long as possible, with the idea of their character arcs evolving as the actors grow old. We should expect to see Tom Holland graduate high school, pull all-nighters through university, marry MJ, get a divorce, lose custody of the kids.
I just really miss him.
Sorry, are we still talking about Spider-Man? One of the strangest things about watching franchises play out is seeing the young actors grow through their roles. Successful television and movie series could end up playing for over a decade. While sometimes the actors portraying certain characters get the boot for a more mature, aged-up version, we typically get to watch the actors grow up like they were one of our own, seeing their characters encounter new scenarios that could only occur due to their aging. Boyhood is an experimental film by Richard Linklater that specifically plays with our connection of watching actors grow up. While the film features some big names like Ethan Hawke and Patricia Arquette, all eyes were on newcomer Ellar Coltrane as Mason. Ellar plays a character of Mason from age 6 to 18. Sorry, I should clarify that. He literally played the character of Mason from 6 to 18 years old. Filming took 12 years over the course of 2002 to 2013. The original idea behind the flick was to film a year in the life of Mason as a short film and then compile all the experiences under the banner of 12 years, which was swapped last second to Boyhood after the release of 12 Years a Slave. The result is a coming-of-age film that shows Mason and his family growing up in one of the most authentically acted films of the last decade, because the growth is actually authentic. Ellar is still active in the industry, having starred opposite Emma Watson and Tom Hanks in The Circle, and teaming up with Boyhood co-star Ethan Hawke in his recently released Showtime miniseries The Good Lord Bird. I mean, how crazy was the concept of Boyhood? The movie was filmed all in 35mm film. Could you imagine what would have happened if something happened to those tapes? You can't fix that movie in reshoots like some other movies. I've got to hand it to the Harry Potter films. It's the only franchise that makes audiences want to go back to school. As we watched Harry, Ron, Hermione, and the rest of the Hogwarts squad survive attack after attack, we also got a glimpse into each year of their schooling. While typically kids have problems like dealing with voice cracks, awkward crushes, and whether or not they should get the latest trend toy, Harry Potter had to worry about a bald terrorist that was stopping at nothing to kill him. Voldemort. Harry's literally 11 when he starts getting involved in the wizarding world. You couldn't have waited until he was legally allowed to drive. Daniel Radcliffe survived all the fame and buzz surrounding being the boy who lived, and has seemingly turned out to be a well-adjusted individual.
I'm a what?
Doing everything from starring in Broadway musicals,
Training for the ballet, Potter!
to becoming a meme king, whether it's through playing a dead farting corpse in Swiss Army Man, or by having guns stapled in his hands as he was stuck in his jammies in the recent Guns Akimbo. There are hundreds of Disney child stars that could have made this list. The entire television division behind Disney corporately breeds young stars to shape and mold them into marketable celebrities, which is insane if you think about for too long. By far the most interesting individual to grow out of the Disney stardom is Shia LaBeouf.
What's that?
Shia began his career as the dorky yet mischievous Louis Stevens. For 3 seasons in a movie, we would watch Louis hatch zany and outlandish plans that would rival even the smartest of pranksters. As Shia grew out of the role, he started taking on bigger franchises like Charlie's Angels and Transformers before defaulting back to his Louis ways, where he continued to come up with zany and outlandish concepts, except this time as Shia. It's no surprise that early childhood fame took a lot from him. At just 12 years old, Shia became the breadwinner for his family, an experience he got to document as he wrote and starred in as his father in a semi-autobiographical flick, Honey Boy, which received rave reviews last awards season. All the hype surrounding Netflix's Stranger Things began with just how talented the young cast was. Millie Bobby Brown was the breakout star.
Maybe we can call you L, short for 11.
Her take on a scared alien was both naive and empathetic. Audiences instantly understood why a man's man like Hopper would get protective over her. Millie was only 11 years old when she booked the role of 11 in the show, a role that she performed so well she netted 11 award nominations for in the first season alone. While the show is still airing and Millie is still only 16 years old, the star has been able to break out of her Stranger Things fame, starring in massive hits like Godzilla and leading Netflix's Enola Holmes. In 2018, Time magazine awarded Millie a spot on their Time 100 list of most influential individuals due to her breakout success and appointment of being UNICEF's Goodwill Ambassador. Aside from being a series for kids at its core, Star Wars has never had a good track record with younglings. We can never forget what Anakin did to the group of youngsters during Order 66, or how young Anakin actor Jake Lloyd was treated following his tenure in The Phantom Menace. It seems almost impossible for any young actors to have a good time in the galaxy far, far away. That is until we remember Natalie Portman grew up in her role as Padme in the prequels. Since starring as the mother of the Chosen One, Natalie has led an A-list acting career full of so many incredible acting credits that being in the Star Wars universe is just one of her least interesting roles. Natalie has since reflected on her young role, calling it a bummer due to the prequel trilogy's original critical panning.
I don't believe what I'm hearing.
Who could blame her? She was just a kid when she was thrown in as a leading character in the biggest franchise of its time. Michael Cera is universally loved for his hot streak of films between Juno, Scott Pilgrim vs. the World, and Superbad, for being the socially awkward teen that could barely fit into the world around him. It's hard to believe that Michael Cera has been anything but an uncomfortable young adult, which is silly because the man has range. In fact, he was once a socially awkward child. Starring in one of the most beloved comedies of all time, Michael has been playing the role of George Michael Bluth in the Arrested Development series for almost 20 years now. Arrested Development ran originally from 2003 to 2006 before being canceled. The show was picked up by Netflix 6 years later, and in that time frame, Michael Cera made himself a Hollywood leading man, which is about as strange as a concept as anything that ever happened in that show. As a result, audiences get to watch Michael Cera grow through the role. The series even parodies Michael Cera's career glow up by showing him land Isla Fisher over his father Jason Bateman in the series. There's honestly too many wonderful young performances in Modern Family to just focus on a certain individual. The series follows an extended and diverse family trying to make it through daily life. This slice of life comedy ran for over 11 years, which is insane as some of the youngest stars in the series weren't even 11 years old at the series beginning. The show utilizes the aging of its performers to its benefit by incorporating new scenarios for the characters based off of how much the actors have matured through any given season. Take Alex Dunphy. Her character begins as a know-it-all type that only exists to one-up her sister Haley. As the series progresses, she grows out of her one-dimensional one-upship and ends up using her smarts to attend Caltech. Luke Dunphy actor Nolan Gould reflected on growing up through the role, saying that he learned just as much from his character's mistakes in the show as he learned from his own mistakes in his personal life. Real life is so much more than just an arc in a TV season. But when you have 11 seasons to flesh out characters, the line becomes pretty thin. Malcolm may have been stuck in the middle, but his actor Frankie Muniz was all over the place in the early 2000s. Not only was he the star of the hit Fox sitcom that ran for over 7 years, he was also Agent Cody Banks. Can we talk about that for a second? There was a time where Agent Cody Banks was more important than James Bond. He rode a skateboard, landed Hilary Duff, pretty much every boy's dream in 2003. The characters Malcolm, Dewey, and Reese all grew up from elementary school to high school ages in the series, as their lovable and goofy dad Hal, played by Bryan Cranston, stood by and supported them. Anyways, after the series concluded, Frankie continued to act in the industry, mostly as himself, while he focused on other ventures such as open wheel racing and drumming. In 2017, it was revealed that Frankie had severe memory loss and couldn't remember most of his childhood fame. That being said, he's in good health and stays upbeat about the situation. The range that an actor has to play a lovable son in a family sitcom, star as a Jedi Knight, and to completely flip the switch and portray the clown prince of crime is something that doesn't come easy. It may sound like I'm talking about Mark Hamill, but I'm actually talking about Shameless star Cameron Monaghan.
Got yourself a job for life with this joker.
The American adaptation of Shameless features an incredible amount of young talent, but none of the Gallagher family has amassed quite the acting credits that Cameron has landed. Ian Gallagher has had quite the character arc as he's grown up in the series. We've seen him struggle in his youth with bipolar disorder, get kicked out of school, be sent off to the army, go to prison, turn into a religious fanatic, and finally get married. Ian is a perfect example of a series growing with a character and leading the character in different directions based off of how the actor has been aging. It's safe to say that a lot of us have grown up with Andy from Toy Story. As youth, we saw Andy as a stand-in for ourselves, just kids excited to play around with our toys. As Toy Story 3 rolled around, our hearts collectively broke as we watched Andy grow older and pass on his beloved toys to a new generation. Andy is a surrogate for the audience, and we connect with the character as over time, we aged with him. Hold up for a second. I know Andy is an animated character and not an actor, but his voiceover actor, John Morris, actually stayed in the role over the the course of each installment. John was only 7 years old when auditioning for the role, and when Toy Story 2 rolled around, he actually had to re-audition as he aged considerably, at that point being 13. We're just gonna roll a sound clip because it's incredible how young his voice has stayed, as he's now 36 years old.
This is Buzz Lightyear, the coolest toy ever made.
I talked about Boyhood earlier on in the video, and if you thought Richard Linklater filming that for 12 years was crazy, let me introduce you to his next project. He's doing an adaptation of Stephen Sondheim's Merrily We Roll Along, which you won't see until 2040 at the earliest because he's taking the musical's 20-year time span literally. All we can say to that one is best of luck,